That's,
Well, I know, but that's
going
fine.
to like whatever. As soon as he goes, years.
Morning, everyone.
Starting.
Morning, everyone. So I'd like to get started if that's all right. Just before we get started, thank you to Amanda Blake, who's sitting back in the corner today. She's going to help us with today's presentation and having it shared and then being live streamed as well. So just when you're ready, Amanda, we can get that started and I can start the meeting. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Community Liaison Committee meeting. This is actually the 33rd meeting today, so welcome. Thanks to everyone who's been joining us since day one and everyone who's been joining us since then as well. So just for today's meeting, we have the agenda as standard. So we've got some welcomes and introductions. We'll go over the next slide, please. Complaints and concerns received year to date. We'll talk about alternative low carbon fuels. And then today we actually have Jimmy with us from our technical sales team. So Jimmy's going to be giving a presentation on concrete basics. I've heard it's a good presentation, so I'm looking forward to this one. I did send out as well for this meeting, we're going to be going over our terms of reference. So hopefully you guys had the chance to review that. Questions in advance, round table, and then closing remarks. So on the next slide, again, welcome to everyone. Particularly welcome to everyone watching on YouTube. Thank you to the town of St. Mary's for allowing us to use this MOC, this Operations Center. It's been very helpful for us in the past and helpful today. And we'll just do a roundtable introduction quickly. So myself, I'm Cara Pellicero. I'm the environmental manager at St. Mary's Cement. I'm
Jimmy Sue. I'm the technical services rep for Ontario.
I'm Fred Spam, a member of the community. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Craigmile, Councillor, Town of St. Mary's.
Good morning, Ruben Plaza, Corporate Environmental Manager.
Roger Muir, corporate member.
Jeff Knowles, I'm a Conservation Officer with the Administrative Environment Conservation and Works.
Margie Lindsay, community member. Vanessa Barr, representing St. Mary's plant.
Alejandro Velez, operations manager for St. Mary's plant.
Councilor Rabedi, Town of St. Mary's.
Awesome. I did receive a few regrets from some of our committee members, but they did send in some comments as well for our discussions today. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about the meeting minutes from March 14th? So looking at our concerns received year to date, first we'll look at the odor, and we will have some graphs on some more data on this on the next slide. So we did receive one odor complaint in March, 4 in April, and 1 in May. Of the 4 received in April, 2 of them mentioned health concerns. For dust complaints, 1 in March, 10 in April. You'll note I had 6 of those were invalid, so they did not originate in our facility. And then 1 in May. And then noise concerns, we did receive 1 in April. So specifically looking at our odor concerns, so we are still using the EnviroSuite software, which helps us to validate the concerns received by residents when it comes to odors. The software will allow us to either categorize them as likely originated from our facility, possibly originated from our facility, probably did not originate from St. Mary's Cement, or just generally did not originate at all. So on the next slide, the 6 concerns that we've received this year. So the first one in March likely originated April 13th as well. We did receive 2 concerns, April 14th and 17th, where the resident did not provide specific locations. So just a reminder for everyone that anyone has a concern to please provide that location as we use it for the software. And then towards the end of April, we had another one likely from St. Mary's, and then May we had 1 as well, likely from St. Mary's. So for 2024, sorry, I did not. Yeah, 2024, we had 4 for the entire year. 2025, we've got the 4 that likely originated and 2 where they did not provide locations. And that's just on the next slide there. It's okay. Just go back a few. Any questions about the odor concerns? Okay. Dust concerns, so as I mentioned, we received several, so in March, we did have one that originated from our facility. April 19th, one that did not originate, or sorry, two that did not originate from our facility. And then towards April 28th and 29th, we received a whole bunch, that did not originate from our facility. I can't pinpoint as to what it was, but I will note there was a lot of farming and dry weather, within that week period. And then on the 29th, we did have 3 that originated from our facility. We did have an event as well that we noticed on that date, so that was a fairly evident one from us. And then towards the end of, start of May, sorry, we did have one where it was a combination of our material with other material that was not ours, but we did work with the residents for that one as well. Comments about the dust concerns? Okay. Alternative low carbon fuels. So next slide. So just as a reminder, we started using these fuels May 2024, which means we have been using it for a full year. As of the end of May, we have used 1,607 tons of wood and 13,670 tons of plastic. So on the next slide, now I did update my calculation for this one. I was using engineering practices math, but then I actually was able to count the trucks. So this is a more accurate number. But we have used 647 trucks worth of plastic and 57 trucks worth of wood. Again, these are materials that are sorted, separate from the recyclables. These are materials that are non-recyclable or reusable. And they are sent to our facility to be diverted from landfill. And then on the next slide, we have a new graph. So I always mentioned that according to Statistics Canada in 2019, the average Canadian disposes of 105 kilograms of plastic per year. So looking at the full year that we've been using alternative fuels, we have used 130,190 Canadians worth of plastic material. And I just put this in a different format because that would be a lot of little Canada flags. So yeah,
Average Canadian or the average Canadian household?
the average Canadian.
Wow.
And that was 2019. I don't know if it's changed.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Karen.
Yes.
The number of truckloads of plastic you're using. I realize it's probably more available, but it's the heat value. Is it there or is it just,
It is, yes.
that's what's available, so that's what you're using? I thought you had to make a mix combination, certain combination of materials.
Yep. So the plastics that we're receiving does have the heat content that we need, and we would typically blend it with the wood. I think it's about the same as pet coke, a tiny bit smaller, but fairly close.
Yeah, the consistency and the quality for the plastics that we receive doesn't require the blending because it's very consistent. A few variation, but not significant. So we don't need to do an additional blending. We just dispose or process the material as it's coming to the plant. When we need to blend the material is when we need to combine with wood, but if not, the plastic goes straight to the system.
Okay, you can burn it straight?
Yeah.
I thought it had to be a.
No, and it's about the availability in the market. Is actually our system has shown the consistency without affecting the process stability, so we can run more than we have, but it's still some availability challenges in the market for the plastic to be delivered to our facilities. So, but we're looking for more opportunities at different. Let's say clients to deliver more material for us.
Jim here, so just to follow up on that question. So typically, if you're just putting straight plastics in, it's like 85% pet coke and 15% plastic, is that?
No, our TSR is 32%, 40%. TSR means thermal substitution rate. So from the total fuel that we need in the process, 40% is coming from the alternative fuels. The 60% is still traditional fuel, that is it.
Okay,
But over the thermal substitution rate is around 40%.
so that's good.
Yeah, it's good. Actually, it's better than we expected initially. It's better, and we are really happy to see that the system is performing well, with consistency in the deliveries, consistency on the process, without any affectation in the quality of the product. That's very good for us.
Yeah, because if I recall correctly, back in the design stages, I think you were talking that maybe get to 20%.
Yeah. Yeah, but the consistency on the heat value is helping a lot because not having those variations allows to bump higher the thermal substitution rate. And the system is capable to do it. So that's what.
So for climate change and your carbon reduction is a lot better under the current operations than even what you thought you were going to.
Yeah. And then the CO2 emissions as well is what positive impact.
Yes, it's one of the key activities for reducing our carbon emissions in the short term. Yes.
On the next slide, I realized I forgot to put this into the agenda, but at the last meeting, we had a question about the amount of truck traffic increasing in the local community from the alternative fuels being used. So I did pull together one graph on the next slide from our truck vehicles coming into the plant per month since 2020. So I don't have the month labeled across the bottom, but basically from 2020 till 2025, we did have a few months in 2020. We had a supplier that was closing, so they sent us a bunch of shipments as they were closing. But if you look specifically at that lime green bars on the last graphs there, those are the alternative low carbon fuels coming into the facility. So yes, there is a portion of our materials coming in that are alternative low carbon fuels, but in terms of the overall truck traffic, I don't think it's a substantial increase relative to other years prior to using alternative fuels.
On average, we have 5 to maybe 6 trucks per day on average, and the time for the deliveries is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it's just from Monday to Friday, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So far, the deliveries that we are having are no more than 6 trucks per day. That is the average traffic that we have coming to the plant.
You direct them to come in off of 7 down water, so it's pretty rare. I'm downtown a lot, obviously, and I don't recall seeing trucks that I couldn't identify. So they're mostly coming in off, so they really aren't coming through our town.
No, not really, no.
Okay. Next slide. So this brings us to our guest speaker for today. So just as a switches over the presentation, I'll have Jimmy introduce himself and then he'll go right ahead.
Like I said, I'm Jimmy. I've worked for St. Mary's or Port Ransom for 11 years now. So 9 years in the ready mix business, which is what you guys know as concrete, or known as concrete business, right? And now we're on this cement division, so working with you guys. But yeah, why don't we kind of get started? I mean, the first question is, does anyone know the difference between cement and concrete? Yeah.
Can you reiterate?
Cement is the cement material, concrete is what it's surviving things.
Good. Amongst other things, right? Water, fire, right? So that's it, right? I always say it's kind of like a baking, right? Cement's kind of like the flour. You use water activated, and then the cake mix to actually bake it is the concrete, right? So we put everything together, mix together, that's your concrete. Okay. You can skip the next slide. So today, just to outline, we'll kind of go through the product types, the different types of uses. Supplementary cementing material, so what we use as kind of, I guess, to substitute it. And then we'll go into the fundamentals of concrete, some basic construction, and just some applications that you commonly see. You can skip 2. We can do that one. Okay, so this is just a table. Your left column is kind of your different types of uses. Your top row is going to be the different types of cements. So right now, the Portland cement is kind of being phased out, and we're pretty much all into Portland limestone cement in Canada. Okay, the most common one that you will see used is your general use, which is like your walls, your slabs, your foundations, your sidewalks, etc. Okay, moderate sulfate and your high sulfate is going to be, well, like the name says, where it's high in sulfates. So your wastewater treatment, your sewage, and such. Okay, moderate heat and low heat is for your mass concrete. So big applications like dams, which could be up to like 3 meters thick. Any kind of big crane bases, but even other applications where it's really high heat, you might have to use a low heat cement. Okay, now in Canada we don't have that. Okay, we use supplementary materials to achieve that. Okay, and then the other one on there is going to be your high early strength. So that's usually used in precast applications where they need high, like fast turnaround. The one that I don't like to mention is, for road work at night. You close a strip, you go pour it, and the next day you can drive on it. It's very innovative, but it's also not so nice for me. Anyway, those are all the different types of abbreviations. Okay, those include both the Canadian side and the American side. Okay, go to the next one.
Just a quick note on this. We are the only plant in BCNA that produce the 6 different types of cement that we need for all these blendings. The other plants that we have in Charlevoix, in US, in Bowmanville, or in Quebec, they produce just 2 or 3 different products. We are the only plant producing 6 different types of products for all these blendings that we need to do for the concrete.
So I kind of touched on that. GU covers about 90% of all cement used, right? Go to next. High early, like I said, precast operations. Cold weather is another one too, especially in big, like when you're having condo construction, you want to accelerate the schedule. Moderate heat, low heat, we kind of touched that as well, and you can achieve that using slag and certain fly ashes with GUL. Moderate sulfate and high sulfate. Again, just where there's like high sulfates, right? So it could be for drainage structures, groundwater structures, soil, etc. Okay, and this is just the type of different types of supplementary cementing materials in there, which includes the different types of fly ashes, the silica fumes, the slag, and I guess the natural pozzolans. So in general, right now, the supplementary cementing materials, the fly ash is harder and harder to find. Good quality fly ash is harder to find. Slag is very closely tied to our steel industry, and as we convert from the blast furnace slag to the arc furnace slag, you won't have that slag that you can use, right? So we're starting to try to find, or BCNA at least, yeah, I can say that, right? We're trying to find different ways to continue to be more green, right? So we're trying to find, we're really working on the natural pollens right now, okay? And so.
Can you just elaborate on what exactly fly ash, silica fume, and slag are, and where they come from?
Okay, so go back.
Oh, you do have slag.
Yeah, we have slides. Okay, so fly ash mainly is from the production of like coal. The good quality is from coal ash power generating plants, which is mainly what used to be more found in Alberta and such, right, where they are burning coal to get that power. I touched on slag already. Silica fume, actually, I don't remember where silica fume is from. Do you remember? But okay.
Okay.
I don't remember where silica fume is from, but it is a byproduct. It's 100% byproduct, right? All these are 100% byproducts, but by using these, you're actually preventing things from going to waste, right? Such as, our alternative fuels, right? And you're replacing them in concrete to not only make it more green, but to make it more durable. Okay, so we go into the next one, actually. So these are a list of kind of all the effects that a supplementary or SEM can have on concrete. Okay, so you can have, I guess, you can have less water demand, you can have more water demand, right? It really depends on what it is. Workability is good for a good portion of them. Okay, bleeding is the amount of water that comes out of your concrete. Setting time, so whether it takes less time or more time for the concrete to set. Heat generated, like I said, you can replace the moderate heat and the low heat. Pumping, putting through a pump. Okay, color, it does change color, and color does matter to a lot of people. Strength, you do gain more favorable strength gain in later age days or early age days, depending on the cementitious material used. Permeability is in general reduced, which is what helps us make more durable concrete. Okay, and sulfate attack, so it prevents from sulfate attack. Okay, Okay, so this is just one of the applications where silica fume was used. It was in the Confederation dish from PEI to New Brunswick, where a high durability was required. So that probably has a design life of 125 as opposed to like a 50-year, right? So that is what, and even the new Gordie Howe rigs, that's 125 design, 125-year design life as opposed to a conventional 50-year, right? So when engineers and architects start growing us, we need to be more durable, right? And we need to have things last longer, right? Concrete is actually a very, very good way of not only being economically friendly because you don't have to tear it down after 50 years, but it's also more durable, which in turn makes it more environmentally friendly, right? Next. So other things that silica fume is good for is that it packs more into the concrete, right? So you're making more dense concrete, which helps make it a stronger concrete. So that 80 MPa column, that's one of my projects. Conventional concrete is about 30 MPa, right? And 80 MPa is about almost three times as much. So to be able to achieve that, you can no longer use just cement, right? You have to use other stuff, such as silica fume, right? To help increase the packing factor. Okay. Any questions so far? If you have questions, feel free to stop me. I'm trying to fly through this because I've condensed it a lot.
What does MPA stand?
MP is megapascals, so it's a force. So it's a force over a given area. Okay, so that's what the MPA is. So, or you guys know as PSI. Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So regular concrete, I believe, is around 4,000 PSI. Right, so that 80 MPa would be roughly 11,000 PSI. Give or take. Okay. So moving on to fundamentals of concrete. So when we said earlier, you're making, I guess, a cake, right? There's actually 6 different portions in your quality. One's not listed on there. Okay, so you have your air, you have your cement, you have your water, your sand, your coarse aggregate, and then you have your admixtures. So as admixtures in there now, because admixtures does give us a lot more flexibility of what we can do, right? It gives us more possibilities as well. Okay. Next. So when we're designing quality concrete, okay, like what are the things that we are looking for, right? So durability is the biggest thing, right? So it has to be weather in Canada, especially, it has to be wet, it has to be resistant to freeze thaw, it has to be able to I guess withstand the de-icing agents, right? So what we use here is sodium chloride salts, right? There's different types of salts. Some are better, some are worse for concrete, right? There's a lot of different things that we do kind of look at. Okay, has to be wear resistant. So if you're designing, for example, a road, right, it has to be skid resistant, right? Has to be adequately strong. So depending on what you're designing for, right, whether it's only a 3-floor house or 80-floor building, it has to be designed correctly. So that's where things such as compressive strength, flexural strength, modular elasticity is not there, but that's kind of where that kind of comes in. Okay, so you have to really know what you're designing for, right, and what it's being exposed to. Okay, again, things you might look for is color, right, desired finish, and how smooth it is. Do you want a rough finish? And the last thing is economical, right? So I kind of touched on based on if you're looking at the life cycle analysis, the whole kind of picture, it is the cheaper option as opposed to best. Okay, so we're talking about the 6 different kinds of ingredients in there, or 5 main ones. Okay, mixing water, and it has to be potable. Recycled water can be used, but it must be tested and has to be free of any impurities that will affect cement hydration. Next. Okay, so when you're looking at water, okay, this is the biggest thing when you're designing is the water to cement ratio. Okay, obviously the more cement you use, the stronger it is. But if you're using more water to kind of balance that out, then you're not making it strong. So if you're looking at the graph, right? So the left axis is kind of how strong it is. The higher the water to cement ratio, or more water to cement ratio, the lower the strength. Okay, so if we go to the next one, this is my favorite one. Okay, so this is what we call in concrete or ready-mix slump, right? You kind of put it into a cone, you lift it up, and you measure the difference, the fall. Okay, and that fall measures workability. The more it falls, the more workable it is, the easier it is to push around, right? But how do most people get to that? Anybody? You add water. Nice, right? Okay, so you add water. Okay, or by adding water, you're increasing your water to cement ratio, so you're making it weaker. Okay, so concrete's a very finicky thing and it has to be treated the right way for it to work the way it's intended to. Okay.
Workability is better in the short term because they can handle better, but
Yeah.
it's going to have a high impact on the performance of the concrete in the long term.
Mhm.
So even though it could be a benefit in the short term, just to pour easily and faster, but we are compromising the quality of the concrete for the long time.
Yeah, I've been on many sites where they're like I wouldn't let them add water because it affects the durability of it, and they give me a rate saying you do it. Okay, so that's it. I didn't do it. Anyway, next slide. So we're talking about aggregate concrete. Okay, so the fine and the coarse, each kind of has their own its properties that we can measure. Next slide, which should be this slide. Okay, so you look at the gradation. Okay, optimizing the gradation. So there's between the sand and the stone, you want to optimize it so that it kind of fills in all the gaps, right? You can use less cement, right? You can also make it more workable. Okay, particle shape. So I guess whether it's round, whether it's angular, okay, can affect the ultimate strength of the concrete and where you can go in terms of strength. Surface texture, rough and smooth, same thing, right? Whether it's round or angular. Strength is would be kind of be based on the angularity or how round it is, right? You look at that bond in between. In general, more surface area, some of the more rough it is, the stronger the aggregate paste bond. Okay, abrasion resistance is, if you're going out on the roads and stuff, how resistant is it to abrasion, right? If it's losing all the abrasiveness, that's not good for roads, right? It makes it harder for us to stop, when we're driving. And the last one is the free stop, their durability. So you don't want your aggregates to be too absorptive, so that they don't want too much water because that increases the stress inside the aggregates. Next, please. So admixtures, there's different types of admixtures. So next slide. Okay, so in general, we're only going to touch on a couple. So the air and chaining admixture. So it's how you put more air into your concrete. We'll touch base on that. Water reducer. So we put more water reducer in there. So like it says, to reduce the amount of water, right, that you need in your mix to perform, right? So that really helps us with the water cement ratio. Retarding admixtures, giving you more life, to just work with your concrete. And an accelerating admixtures. So how do I make the concrete gain strength faster? How do I make it set faster? Yeah, so there are maybe other ones outside of these ones, such as what was it? The shrinkage reducing admixtures. There's the VMA, the viscosity modifying agents, right? Just different ones that are out there to make to affect different concrete properties. Yeah.
Excuse me, what does, maybe
Sorry, go
the
back.
answer here, I was gonna ask, what does more or less air do in concrete mix?
I will explain that in like a minute.
I'm ahead of you, sorry.
It's okay. I like it. The years. Next, please. So air and chain concrete. So we'll talk a little bit about this. Next slide, please. And this is slide I want. So this is kind of a microscopic level of what happens. Okay, so you want air inside your concrete because it acts as like a pressure release valve. Okay, so if you only have a hole and you fill it with water and you freeze it, what happens when you freeze something? It expands.
That's what I expanded.
Right, putting air inside your concrete lets that expand, but also doesn't put pressure in your concrete. Okay, concrete is very weak when it comes to flexural strength or anything that's pushing from the inside. Right, it's really good when you try to compress it, but it's not good otherwise. Okay, so when you're putting in concrete, you want to design it so that there is areas where there is, I guess, agents or reactions to happen and to grow into. Does that make sense? Okay.
Sorry.
Kind of, right, so, the one on the left is kind of, the hole, right, where it's not frozen, right, and the one on the right is where it's frozen, so all that reaction is going, all that excess water is going into the hole. Right, so now it's relieving the pressure in the system.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Okay, so area and train concrete can also affect other properties, right? It can increase workability, reduce circulation, reduce bleeding, it can finish sooner. Reduces required sand content, reduces water. Okay, and the hardened concrete is where it matters more. Okay, it makes it more freeze-thaw resistance by 10 to 20 times over non-air straight concrete, right? So we're taking that pressure away from that concrete. Okay, and it improves resistance to bulking, which is also kind of tied to the freeze-thaw, right? And the reaction and such. And again, same thing for the sulfate. Okay, because you have different reactions happening, right? And you're taking away, you're giving room for it to grow inside.
Can a contractor then actually overwork air and train concrete if we?
Yes. That's why concrete's very thin. Yeah. But that's a great question, actually. We deal with tons of those. Okay. So exposure and durability.
Quick question, maybe you will answer later. When we prepare the concrete at the ready-mix plant, do we have a time to deliver to the customer? Like
2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
So-
So by CSA is 2 hours, by MTO you have 90 minutes, depending on.
So when the mixer is leaving the ready-mix plant, has only 2 hours to deliver.
Not
inside.
from when it leaves the ready mix plant, but when the water and the cement touch.
Okay,
That's the reaction.
That is critical because that is because you can see a lot of ready-mix plant everywhere. Is because the distance from the plant to the construction site, it should be in the radio to achieve that delivery time.
Now-
If not, you will compromise the quality of the mix that you are, make sure that you are giving to the client.
Now, I'm gonna add one exception to that, is that if it's a high temperature, like ambient temperature, if it's like 30 degrees outside, right? What happens when you increase the temperature, right? Your chemical reaction happens faster, right? So why is there a 2 hour restriction on that is because we want to give it enough time before the reactions kicks off.
What to do in case that you are getting close to the 2 hours and you are not still?
Officially or not officially?
I guess I know the non-officially answer, but officially.
Officially, you're supposed to get a new truck. Okay.
Unofficially.
Not officially, it depends on other people, right? Depends on the person. Okay,
Is it 2 hours till when it arrives on site or 2
No.
hours till it's fully laid?
2 hours from when the cement touches the water to it being placed.
Okay, so like the end mark is being
Yeah.
placed.
Yes, not officially, and we don't promote it, but
Yeah.
some people just put a Coke inside the mixer.
Yeah, you can put Coke, it does slow down the reaction or stops the reaction.
Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola is sugar inside, yeah.
Just put a Coke.
Yeah, or you can buy a bag of sugar. That's
That will
yeah.
give you an extra time, that will give you an extra time,
Yes,
unofficially,
unofficially.
on records.
Anyway, we're gonna talk a little bit about durability, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, right? So when concrete is exposed to aggressive environments, its successful performance is dependent on greater extent to the durability, right? So long-term performance, against the environment than on the strength properties. So I can design a 30 MPa and it can last 5 years, right? I can design 30 MPa and it lasts 20 years, right? Depending on what it's exposed to, okay? But it could be both designed 30 MPa, but one lasts longer than the other. And we want to choose to do one that lasts longer because that's what concrete is able to do, right? Okay, so specifying concrete durability. So these are technical sheets. Okay, so that left sheet is pretty much different applications, and then the left column will tell you what kind of exposure class it is. Based on the exposure class, you look at your water cement ratio, your minimum 28-day strength, the range of air content, and then permeability if it's applicable, based on that one. Okay. Next. So when you're looking at concrete deterioration, these are examples of different kinds. So AARs, alkali, aggregate reactivity, sulfate, which is a sulfate attack. There's two main types. One is just expansion of your concrete. The other one turns your concrete into mush. No, that's bottom side attacking. You don't want that. Okay, CO2, so over time, CO2 can attack your concrete and make it weaker over time. Same with acid. Okay, because concrete's a very basic kind of chemical, you can say, right? So it's a basic reaction. If you're adding different acids to it, it makes it weaker over time and it loses that strength. Okay, physical, we talked about freeze-thaw, corrosion, right? Corrosion inside your I guess your rebar, right? So as it corrodes, one area is thinning out, the other area is expanding. Okay, thermal, abrasion, cracking, and shrinkage. Okay. Yeah. So how do we achieve the durability? Use proper concrete, so quality materials, okay, proper mix designs, use proper construction practices, so not overworking our concrete, right? Placing it fast enough, having a good subgrade for it to be placed on, okay? And then on the other side, like what can we do inside our concrete? So you give it a good air void system, okay, reduce the water to cementitious material and reduce the cracking by finishing it properly, getting on it and curing it properly, okay? And then the other way, another factor is also supplementing cementitious material. So as we talked about, it can help change those kind of characteristics.
Just on quality of the materials, we are not just talking about the quality of the cement in the mixture. You explained to us that we have 6 different elements in the mixture. It should be a good quality in all of them, including the water and all the other aggregates, because you can compromise the performance. Even though you have a good quality in the cement, it's good if you don't have a good quality in the other 5 elements, you can compromise the quality of the mixture.
A very good point, right? We talked about aggregates earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
If the aggregate is not clean, has some kind of contamination, will compromise totally the strength and the life quality of the mixture. So that's the reason that we need to take care not only on the cement, we need to take care on the other elements, part of the mixtures as well.
You very briefly mentioned rebar and subterranean, so obviously the setup of the situation is very important just to someone's quality, correct?
Yes. So the easy factors of ensuring a good quality projects, right? So like I said, proper design, proper detailing, which we won't go through today. So good concrete mix for the day, so that's again the good quality ingredients. Okay, adequate mix design, so proper mix design. Talked about good materials and adequate mixing. Okay, if you just put everything together and don't mix it, you have everything separated. It's not good, right? Next. So at the job site, concrete is the only construction material that is delivered to the job in its unfinished state. Right. So if you think about anything else delivered to the construction site, it's all finished. We're the only one that's not. Right. So you go there, you place it, you wait for it to kind of be in its finished state. But even then, it's not in its finished state technically, because you gotta wait 28 days or until it reaches a certain strength before you can continue building on top of it. Okay. Okay, so I talked a little about subgrade uniformity. Okay, so you have to make sure that the bottom is good enough for it to kind of sit on. If it's not level, if it's not compacted properly, the weight of the concrete, which is pretty heavy, will change it. And now concrete where it's not good at taking those tensile strengths, so like flexing it, right? That's when you're gonna have those cracks, right? That's when you're not gonna have that durability in your concrete anymore. Next. So something like that, okay, like that, if you were more weight on that than the person, you know, that's how it's not a good, it won't take a lot of force, right? Next. Moisten your subgrade, this is important, okay? You moisten your sub, especially in I guess a hot day, okay? You want to have this so it doesn't take water away from your concrete. Okay, if your concrete is not dry, if your bottom of your concrete and the top of your concrete is not drying at the same rate, that could be not good. Okay, if you go to say winter, if it's cold and the top is hot, right? As soon as you pour it, the bottom part will not set properly because it's losing too much temperature. Top is okay because it has some temperature, so now the bottom's not carrying, top is carrying, they have different bottoms. Okay, so it's very, very important to know how to finish your concrete, place your concrete, and so on. Okay, so details, okay, so you can't see it in this one, right? But because, so what are details? Details are essentially you put in joints, we call them joints inside your concrete, so you control where you want your concrete to crack. Okay, but if you don't control it, then you're gonna have cracks all over the place. You're not gonna be happy, right? It's not gonna look pleasant, and so on. Okay. Next. Okay. So just some general guidelines. Okay, place as soon as possible, preferably within 2 hours. Okay, place concrete into concrete. So it kind of, yeah, tells you how to distribute it. Okay, so there's different types of methods, whether just off the truck, using wheelbarrows, using a pump, and so on. Strike out the concrete to finish grade using a straight board on edge between the forms using a sawing motion just to have a flatter surface finish, and then smooth the surface using a long-handed bull float. This is for just the, I guess, the regular slab here. Okay, for just side topic, because we're dealing with it a little bit. If you're seeing someone on a driveway or someone on a sidewalk and they're using a steel trowel, that's a big no-no. It makes it weaker. It makes a dense surface and it makes it weaker. Okay, you may have durability issues down the road. Okay, so placing fish this one way, right, straight off the truck into the forms, ready to go back and forth, truck moves forward, fairly straightforward. Next, right, so same thing here,
Sorry, walking around it doesn't affect it too much?
walk around it.
Those guys were standing in it.
Well, it's, you have to go and consolidate it afterwards, right? So walking around it doesn't affect it, it doesn't cause enough movement to disturb it, generally. Let's go. Okay, so finishing concrete, you have to wait before your final finish. You have to wait till all the bleeding cures. You gotta, finish your concrete properly, so edge groove, and then do your groove finish. If it's interior, you do your float or your trowel again and again to get the finish that they want. Okay. Next one, just examples of finishing. Next. Okay, so when we're talking about, I talked about that earlier, okay, is if you don't let the bleed water kind of go out, or if you're using a steel trowel, it makes that top surface just like a weakened zone, okay? So that's what happens up there, and then you're gonna have that top, if the water cannot get out, okay, or if the air creates pockets, then you're gonna have a weak surface, and that's when it starts peeling, right? So if the top surface is peeling, it's not very aesthetically pleasant. It's not detrimental to the structure, but it's, again, it's not like visually appealing. So someone's always saying something's wrong with my concrete. Okay. Next. Okay. So we talked about water cement ratio, and another thing that can affect the previous slide is a thing called blessing. Okay, it's even if someone takes a brush, put it in the bucket, and you start blessing the concrete. So you're actually like blessing, going around, throwing the water on top. Okay, and what does water cement ratio do to your concrete? It makes it weaker. Okay, so by blessing your concrete, you're making the top weaker. Okay, next one. Curing concrete, this is probably one of the most important things. Okay, if you properly cure your concrete, it makes it durable. If you don't, it can crack, it cannot gain strength, depending on the time of year, right? So if it's in the winter, it's below 4 degrees. Below 4 degrees, your concrete is not getting any strength at all. At 10 degrees, it slows down. Okay, well, actually, probably slows down at a higher, like 15 or so, right? 10 is really affected. 20 is probably where it should be. Okay, 20, 23, that's like ideal for concrete strength gain. Okay. Next one. So what is curing? Okay, it prevents the loss of moisture from the concrete and maintain favorable concrete temperatures, and it should say humidity as well. Okay. Next. Okay. So curing concrete is not just making sure that it's moist. Okay, but you're also preventing it from freezing, high temperatures, premature drying. Moisture loss, okay, and those are kind of like the minimum requirements, and then I guess the ideal requirements. So I was listening to someone else say they poured a driveway at their house, okay, and the city reached out to them 7 days later saying, hey, I think there's a leak in your water. in your water pipe, but that was him curing his concrete properly. Now, how many people are getting those complaints? Right? Probably not a lot. Okay, next. I think we're almost done. Those are the different ways of curing, okay? But curing compound, wet burlap, plastic, soaker hose, right? Different ones. Next one. Masonry construction. So at same areas, we do have this is where we will make all our masonry, most of our masonry cements. Okay, so our type N, type S, type PLN. Okay, and those are for masonry construction only. That's the pictures from our masonry trial that we have yearly, just to see how our products are performing, used by masons. I'm very proud to say that St. Mary's has a good reputation in the masonry industry. Okay, next. Right, so just some customer applications. So ready-mix concrete, right? That's when everything is mixed inside either a drum or inside one of the ready-mix trucks, the trucks with the big drums on it that turn. Okay, so it's either in the drum, put into another drum, or it's placed into the truck itself. Right? Next, mobile trucks, so it's much smaller applications. It can't carry as much as the ready-mix trucks, but you're able to do small patches. Okay, next we talked about precast concrete. So yeah, so it's like stairs, concrete pipes and such. Next. And the last one would be concrete blocks and pavers. So here the bricks, the patio stones, right?
Just one comment on the previous slide. For the precast, we use the concrete that achieve the strengths and early stages, because that helps to the productivity of the companies. So that's the reason that we have the higher limestone of the NSF, because giving that quality, that specifications in the cement allows to them to produce more effective. They don't need to wait for a lot of days to achieve these strengths. They can achieve it in the short term, and then they can produce more precast products. So that is one of the specifications for the higher limestone. That's the reason that we have those special products to provide solutions to the customers that needs these strengths in the short term.
And then just a couple of, I guess, projects that our company has worked on, right? The Gordy Howard Bridge, is it open for the public yet? Or it should be almost open, right? It's not open just yet. I think they're just working on their approach still. Okay, but that's one where we have to use a lot of different, I guess, very, very high end, what we call GUBSF. So that's the G wall plus silica fume. Okay. So a lot of that, it's again designed for 125 year lifespan. Okay. Next one, this cross-side LRT is one of the ones I worked on. Okay, very high supplementary materials. Many different, I guess, requirements. Has to be waterproof, has to be fire resistant, has to be extended workability, shrinkage requirements. You name it, they probably thought of it. Okay, and just to throw some other projects that I don't know, outside the company we worked on Ripley's, worked on the CN Tower. Most of the tall condos are built by us in Toronto.
The new Buffalo Bills Stadium.
Yeah, I don't go on that side, but yeah, it's those ones, right? But we're involved in a lot of, just high profile jobs, and it's very nice to see what cement and concrete can do compared to what it could do, say, 50 years ago. Okay. And I think that's it. Questions, anybody?
Yeah, we said that we deliver an unfinished product, and we need to wait for up to 20 days sometimes. How do we track as a company the performance for the concrete that we deliver to achieve that we are having specifications?
Well, in general, you have your field samples or your field samples. So you take a cylinder, so like the owl shape, you fill it up with concrete, you consolidate it properly, you cure it properly, and you break it in 7 days, 28 days, 56 days, 91 days, depending on what they ask for. Right.
So that is something that we do to keep in control the specifications of the performance that we're expecting to achieve when we deliver the product to the construction site.
Yeah,
You know, just delivering and tracking that we are achieving the performance expected.
Yeah, so like, I'm a little involved with it a lot more, I guess, now, like, you know, so it starts with the cement plant, right, actually, it even starts in the quarry, right? Quarries have to make sure that the aggregates are inspected, you know, we make sure that everything's inspected inside here, right, so making sure the strength's good, and when we go out there, we make sure everything's being used close to properly, right, and that it meets our design.
So there's a machine or tool for, once the product's in place to check it to see
So,
how it's
yeah,
progressing?
so, like I said, like, we don't, it's not in place, right, so I would have, say, a couple cylinders, and I'll
Okay.
fill with concrete. And cure it properly, I bring it back to my lab, cure it properly, and then 20 days, I put it in a machine where it just kind of squeeze until it blows up. Well, it depends, sometimes it blows up.
What about the use of acrylic ceilings, exterior that prevents falling?
That, I wouldn't say it's good or bad, but it's still, like, if you want not letting water go into it, right? So, but if there's water gets into the system before you apply it, then it's no good. Yeah,
The 2 hour process. So once you pass that Rubicon and it's sitting in the drum still, is there a process where it comes back to the plant and is
no, we do not reship
it
concrete.
gets thrown out somehow?
So depending on where you go, a good practice nowadays is kind of, you either make blocks out of it.
Okay.
So you make lesser concrete blocks out of it, so you're not putting in structural applications.
Okay.
The other one is you can kind of dump it on the ground. And you can make it into recycled concrete aggregate for different use,
Right.
whether it's used for, you know, a road base or sub base or whatever. So that's another one, right? So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
When you talk about the additives, and you can add some at your ready mix plant, but a lot of the additives go right in during the process and kill, correct?
It's different stuff, but
Other plants to finish them.
so like they're making the cement, right? So they're adding everything in the finished once you grind it, right? Before it kind of goes out. So they're making that powder, right?
So like,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have some just for grinding aid, we call grinding aid, that is just to help during the grinding process. And then something just to air inclusion, but those are just for the one part of the 6 ingredients that we need.
Yeah, but when you're putting in concrete, you need it to perform in a certain way, right? For example, you need workability, right?
So let's say that the different products that we apply in the process have less impact or minimum impact as we compare with the other admixtures that we have on the concrete side. It's very minimal.
I was just trying to get down to something that I remember reading, that was probably, it was from Michigan 50 years ago, an Environmental Protection Agency. And they were talking about taking fly ash from the Lambton coal-fired generating station to a cement plant somewhere in Michigan. But at Lambton, they had, they were putting in ammonia additives or whatever to change to mercuric chloride to take it out of the fly ash. But then so I assumed it went into the kiln in Michigan, because then it created some sort of, became a large emitter of elemental mercury to plants from.
I think I know what you're talking about. Michigan doesn't allow the addition of fly ash anymore because of that,
Okay.
right? That's a different problem, but that was only that specific type of fly ash, right?
Yeah.
So there's different classes of fly ash,
Yeah.
right? Depending on the
Yeah, you can
properties.
have one fly ash that you can add in the process in the kiln, and you have another fly ash that could be part of the recipe in the cement. Yeah, so it's the different compositions in the fly ash and quality.
I think they were adding it in the kiln,
Yeah.
which created this.
One is called boron ash, the other one is fly ash, so it's some difference on the chemistry in
The chemistry, the loss of ignition.
Yeah.
So sand aggregate, I understand there's not an issue with getting our rain sand aggregate.
So I mean, it really depends on the gradation, depends on the impurities in it, if it's organics in it. Concrete doesn't do all organics, or it stands. Right, it absorbs a lot of water.
So you can't use sand.
You can't use any sand for concrete, though. It has to be concrete sand, yes.
But the source of that sand diminishing.
I would say it's diminishing, you can, I mean, at least for us, I don't think it's diminishing, I wouldn't say it's diminishing.
Well, probably drives some rivers, areas.
Yes, that is one way, I guess, that is, I guess, the one way, but, you know, but that is, yeah, but I don't.
Some issues, yeah. Jimmy, the process of air and training, is that just as straightforward as blowing air into the mix as it's mixing?
So you're adding in concrete, you're adding a liquid or a powder form, I guess, whatever, but you're adding essentially very, very small bubbles. It's like soap bubbles. So I mean, if you want to increase your air, technically you can get, you know, your dishwasher, you can add water, shake it up. If you add your concrete, your air will go through the roof. Right, that's one way of adding air. Right, but it doesn't stay. Right, so what you're adding is you're adding a microscopic kind of like bubbles where it's meant to stay in place. Any other questions?
Thanks, David.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Great presentation. Thank you.
Back for review.
Switch back to the original presentation. At this point in time, we'll go through the terms of reference, which we try to go through every couple of years just to have refreshed and up to date and see if there's any changes that we can make for it. Before we get started, I would like to note that this terms of reference is part of our air permit, our environmental compliance approval. And it is signed off by both the cement plant and the Minister for the Environment. So if we do have any discussion recommendations today, they do need to be approved by both parties for that final sign off. So any comments from today will be taken into account when we do the initial review. I read that part already, but for the next slide, just to kind of frame our review of these terms of reference, and everybody has a copy, correct? Yeah, okay. So I do have some general questions to guide the discussion, and then we'll look specifically at the terms of reference after. So the first question that I put together is, does the community at large seek more information? Is there any constant inquiries to yourselves other than the complaints that we go through here, being odor, dust, or noise? So I did mention at the start of the meeting, Christine is not able to join us today, but she did send some feedback. So she did note, she hasn't received any questions for more information, and if she does receive them, they're about noise and dust. So I guess I'll open it up to the table. Does anybody here receive any concerns outside of what we typically address? Right. Is the current reporting format, so the videos that we are doing, meeting the needs of the community, and how many people are typically watching? So I don't have numbers on who are watching online. I didn't update that. But Christine noted, I don't know too many people who access the meetings either in person or video, so she's not sure, but she has wondered about hosting a session once a year in the evening or on a Saturday morning to discuss general concerns and review some of the things that have been discussed over the course of the year. She thinks that might generate more interest in the CLC and the plant in general and would accommodate people who are working during the daytime. Does anybody here have any thoughts or comments on that?
Service to warrant, say,
I'm not.
in terms of odor. It's always a snack. Oh, even though I can share it for somebody else. So. Generally, it's a real found up with reports that it's not snack.
Yeah, I can't comment specifically on that. I will say I do receive all the concerns in a timely manner. So if there was any more concerns outside of that, I think the options for contacting the cement plant or the ministry, et cetera, the committee are pretty open and available, and people haven't been taking the options, of course, because we go over the ones that we do receive and there's not only more, right, quantity wise. But I can, I guess, see the merit in maybe trying an off Friday morning meeting just to see how it goes.
I think it would be a great idea. In my role as a politician, I've noticed the cyclical nature of engagement tends to be around the time that elections are happening. That's when I probably get the most inquiries, when it appears most on social media. But it does kind of die off and it seems to be a very small portion. But I think it's worth a try, you know, to see if there is interest. It's worth a try at least once to see what happens. And we've gotten in the habit of council of having coffee time, open discussions where most, if not all of council and some staff will be available and in a very leisurely, casual type of atmosphere. And it's worked well. People love a drop-in type of, so I would suggest that kind of, I mean, we obviously want to make a presentation to give some information, but if it had that leisurely kind of attitude to it as well, might go well.
I sort of missed the first part of the question. I don't remember who asked of the comment, but so are you discussing having another in-person meeting with anybody who wants to come to discuss the issues that they have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
cement
that
plant?
is the first part is, I mean, this format of the meeting that we have right now is the CLC members here at the table. We do have the viewing members in the back, but a different format could be to have one with more engagement opportunities. And I think that if we were to do one in the off, like Rob was suggesting, that would be maybe an opportunity to change the format of that one, just to see how it goes. I think for these meetings right now, though, like for the format of the YouTube and everyone here at the table, is this is working? Okay.
And we are always open to have any other conversation, not waiting necessarily for these meetings. People is encouraged to call the plant, to call Cara, and actually they have some interest in visiting the plant. The doors are open to have any visitor in case that somebody wants to learn or to see or to share something with us.
And I don't necessarily bring all of those up, but maybe once every 2 months, I'll get a call about the questions. They're not complaints, they're just general questions that we'll do for tours and blasting videos and all of that.
We have some visitors a few weeks ago as well that they were interested on knowing more about the plant. We opened the doors and we have the visitors coming to the plant.
When you did the AIC introduction, there were presentations of the golf course. You have a fairly good public, there's a lot of opportunity there to ask questions. If you've got another announcement to make, that would be good. Certainly a big time to have general public asking questions. There's really no major issue at the moment, right? You know, nothing's gonna blow up real soon. Read that concrete building.
Cement or concrete?
Are committee members willing to share more time in the spotlight? And if so, how would their role be explained to the community? I doubt members want to be interfered with as a contact that they can do more than any more than help them voice a concern. And are current members ever being asked to help more than this current committee? Are people asking you for anything outside of this committee, I guess is the question.
Mostly dust, you know. That was one of the complaints.
And then I guess that ties in with that. Has the town or the ministry ever been approached for more information outside of this?
I don't think so.
I think the mayor has probably got a couple calls over the past few years, and I think he would ask one of us on council who's on the committee, and we would end up forwarding you. You know, so I think a lot of the public now knows that if there's something out there, they know who Kara is, they know her phone number, and I think you're getting most of the calls directly.
Yeah.
From the ministry,
I do get the occasional call, complaint, concern. And they're related to Carol as well.
So I guess that brings us to the actual terms of reference. Was there any comments or changes about anything inside the actual structure of this? Has there been anything that you've added or omitted recently?
Since the last time we looked at it,
No, so the last time it was updated and signed by the ministry was 2023. I did go through and commented maybe the odd wording, like it says we're supposed to do the terms of reference annual, I might just change that to biannual. But again, we need the ministry's thoughts on those at some point as well. There is sections specifically about the format of the meeting, which is under condition 5. Specifically in there, it says that we're going to publish the date and time of the committee meetings on the website. Which we haven't been doing, we've been putting them in the newspaper and on the town of St. Mary's events calendar. We can still put them on our website, we just
It's
never,
probably more effective.
I would think so as well. And we could do all 3. Is there a different way of communicating that we should be taking for upcoming meetings?
what about St. Mary's Life? Everybody seems to be on that. I would put it on that and because I get people complaining, not complaining a lot, just, you know, making comments about the cement plant or if there's an order or something like that, that's just becomes a comment that everybody is making. So it would be nice if the information that we have for people is sort of where they go to get the information. And it seems to me that it's a lot of people go to St. Mary's Life for that.
I think that's a discussion point that we've had as well, at the plant. I mean, social media, we all know has gone in so many different directions. And the local page is a good option, but I don't know if engaging on social media would become its own full-time job, right? That's kind of where we wonder where it would go. Right.
Couldn't agree more. Sorry, I don't mean to disagree with you, Marty, but
Oh,
the
no.
best way to create disinformation is to put information out. And I feel like with time and date is one thing, but yeah, anything further would just cause, because there's people out there looking to cause problems.
You don't think that if St. Mary's Cement put something out on St. Mary's Life, that it's disinformation?
To that point, the people that want to cause a problem will cause a problem. It doesn't matter
Oh, I know.
how
Like
concise
around
the
St. Mary's,
information
I know
is,
that.
yeah, it doesn't matter, and they'll misunderstand. We recently had someone misunderstand what a Master of Arts is, right? So a Bachelor of Arts degree, so you know, and it took 2 of our biggest employees to quell that whole issue. And that was, to me, that was insane. You know, but I want the communication to be out there, yeah.
I suppose, most of latency, the CLC to the website. Period, that's it. You want info, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But to get involved in social, because a lot of people, there are people who do not have accounts on Facebook or TikTok.
I don't.
Like exactly.
Yeah, something we'll have to discuss.
We discuss internally and see different channels that we can have to communicate these events.
Outside of that, when I went through the format, I didn't see anything other than what we already briefly talked about, was whether or not we want to do a meeting, you know, on a different event or different day of the week or anything like that. In terms of the format where we have the core committee sitting at the table and then residents that want to discuss options submitting 3 days in advance, I think that's worked for myself. I'm not sure if anybody has thoughts on that. The premise there being, of course, that if there is questions that we can provide information and slides in advance. Any concerns about that with just the discussion? So. Okay, so like I said, there's maybe 1 or 2 small wording changes here and there that I might review with the ministry, but for the most part, if we're okay with the then we'll basically just refresh it and move forward. And that brings us to questions brought in advance, and I did not receive any for this meeting. So that brings us to our round table today. So Jimmy, yes or no? Start with you.
What?
Any comments? I don't think words.
Good presentation on time.
Thank you.
Next time, you know, more details. Very good.
Yeah, I thought it was a great presentation today. I think because there's always people moving into town and you have, you know, that when we talk about whether the Enviro suite is explaining that it's not the cement plant or what, I think at least on an annual basis, we should have an update of where that data comes from, but what does that mean? You know, how do you know that it's not from, you know, for us have been here a while, we all do, but you constantly have a turnover of people, so I think something like that is always good to put in there. Because that's really what we're supposed to be here, what are the complaints and, you know, how do we know that and let people know that, so.
Good presentation, John, thank you. No, thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed your commentary. Don't have a very scientific mind, as most people around the table know. But anyway, I really liked it, and I think how you approached it was really relatable to someone like me. I mean, all of the ways you explained things, so thank you.
Well said. I enjoyed that. It was a really great presentation. Thank you.
Same here, Timmy. Thank you very much for your presentation. And thank you everyone for the opportunity to meet with all of you.
I agree with Marty. And maybe I'm geeking out here, but I love all the presentations here. I always walk away feeling like, man, that was a really good hour and a half spent. So I really enjoyed it. I want to clarify that when I talk about social media, okay, a simple date, time of the next meeting, I think would be adequate. Engagement is where you run into your problems. You know, so you could even ask seniors like to turn off commenting and just make sure it's posted there. Yeah, I don't want the cement plant, particularly yourself, to spend hours, you know, working on misinformation where that person can just take the time to look it up or come to a meeting or whatever. You know, it's not your job. It's your job to communicate that this is available. It's the other person's job to come and find out for themselves. Thank you, Karen.
So next slide. I just, as typical, would like to end with a safety reminder for everyone. So as we are approaching summer, I wanted to talk briefly about sun safety. So there are different types of UVA, B, and C rays coming from the sun. So UVA is associated with skin aging, UVB is skin burning, and then both of them together can actually lead to skin cancer. So there are different forms of sunscreen. Your basic SPF 15 is 93% effective against UVA. SPF 30 is 97% effective against UVB. And then finally, your SPF 50 is 98% effective against both of them combined. So just a reminder, protect your skin, wear hats and sunglasses, wear the sunscreen, seek shade during midday hours. And then in general, for sun safety, drink more water. Make sure to reapply your sunscreen every 2 hours or after you swim. And then use lip balm as well, that would have an SPF factor to it. So our next meetings we have scheduled for September 12th. Again, we'll review format of that and decide if we're going to change that. But for now, we'll pencil that one in. And as always, if anybody's interested in contacting the cement plant for questions, tours, anything like that, my contact information is there. It's also on the website. But feel free to do that. And again, thanks everyone for coming out. Oh, Joe's got a comment.
Yes, I forgot. I apologize. I completely forgot this, but I should bring it up. Sometime since the last meeting, I never hear it on my side of town, but there was an enormous blast or a shaking, and I remember calling you and can you give me any update or can you? Because that was something that was mentioned. There was one day that there was a terrible vibration.
We've had presentations on Boston before. Weather conditions is the biggest factor for that if there's a cloud cover and a low ceiling.
Okay.
As long as windy.
We have windy winds.
So we learned from that event. So now we are checking more the weather conditions, windy conditions, just to see, and if we need to reschedule or postpone the blasting, we are taking in consideration those elements. We knew in the past, but we need to continue learning and see whatever, and to do whatever is possible to mitigate those elements. So.
Thank you. I apologize. I didn't bring it up.
No,
Great, thanks.
Because I'm on the other side of town and yes,